Welcome, everyone. I'm Derek Brown, chairman of the Utah Republican Party, and today we're doing another episode of what we call Chairman's Chat. And we have with us today Burgess Owens, who is our Congressional District 4 candidate. He's been doing a great job. You've been out there. You've been everywhere. That's the amazing. It seems like you're everywhere.
It's been a fun process, and really looking forward. It's hard to believe we have almost less than a month here.
Yep.
Counting down for sure.
And it's a tough process, but it seems like you're actually enjoying it.
I am.
Some candidates, they don't look like they look like they're tolerating it. You actually look like you're actually enjoying this whole
Well,
thing.
you know what it is when you realize so much is at stake, and we're just blessed to be part of it at this point. Really, we're in the hunt. We understand what's at stake. We don't mind sharing our thoughts. So I'm excited about it, to be honest with you, at this point.
Well, you're doing a great job, and we just for everyone watching. In about a week from now, ballots will arrive, and so I mean, it seems like quite the journey. You started almost a year ago.
Yep.
Announced. You did a great job in convention and primary, and now we're sort of in the tail end of this process. And so let's start by talking about sort of the obvious thing, and that is when you decided to do this last November, you probably pictured what the campaign would look like. And then with COVID, everything sort of changed, and you had to completely adjust your entire campaign. Which you did marvelously. I mean, you've adjusted it. But so how has it been? Like, what's different than what you expected?
Well, to be honest with you, since it's my first time out, up until this time last year, I was still saying I'll never ever be a politician. So it's been an interesting process because it's the first time out. We're able to do the changes we needed to navigate through the process, and it really came down to one simple thing. It's just a matter of getting the message out. And just like all entrepreneurs, that's what's neat about the Valley, particularly with so many business owners. We understand what it is to navigate. When things change a little bit, we have to figure out how to get around it.
Right.
So we just looked at it, instead of sitting down with people face to face like everyone else did, we just had to figure out a way to get the message.
Yeah.
Everyone was on the same playing field. I think we did a good job because our message resonated.
I think it's great.
Well, it's a place to do it.
And you know, as an elected official, your job really is to just solve problems. And you got handed a big one. And it was kind of fun to watch a lot of the different candidates. Some didn't do as well sort of solving that COVID problem. And you did great. I mean, from day one, you did great in your convention, in the primary, and you've weathered it well.
Well, you know, Derek, I think what it is, because of the way I was raised, the values I was raised with, I'm really at home. I mean, the values I grew up in Tallahassee, Florida in the 60s, even though it's a segregated community, were the same values we have here. Focus on education, faith, the free market, and the family. So for me, it's really just being at home, being natural, and I'm just thankful I'm in a district that gets what I'm.
They get it.
What I'm trying to articulate, and I'm excited about that. To be honest with you.
Well, what has anything surprised you as you've gone through the process? Because you probably had an idea of what it would look like, and then reality is always a little different than what we anticipate.
What has really been surprising, I guess, to a degree, is you think about what it is to run for office. That is to articulate your thoughts, to debate ideas, and for the representative to figure out how to best represent the values of that district they're voting for. What I'm finding interesting is how little my opponent has had a chance to really talk about his record. We're almost a week from the votes dropping, ballots dropping, and very little has been talked about the 2 years.
I don't think I've seen anything about there. I think most of what I see is them trying to, to dig up things about your past and then twist it into something negative. And so I haven't seen anything about that record.
That's the thing. I do have so much trust. First of all, the American people have trust also in Utahns. That we don't like mean and ugly. We just like to find the facts. And those issues that really resonate with them are the ones I've been talking about. So I'm excited about that. It was a little surprising, but that's okay. We overcome those obstacles, and at the end of the day, if we connect with our constituents, then things work out pretty well.
I love it. Well, it's just like changing your campaign based on that challenge, and then you get to this point, and you kind of knew that was going to happen because that's what the Democrat Party does nationally. Is they know that you're doing great and you're a great candidate, and I think it makes them nervous, and so gives you a chance to kind of adjust, but it's never fun. It's never fun being the one who's on the receiving end of that.
I tell you what, I've been blessed to also, as you know what the focus is, your vision is, and being in the football game, you know how to just, when you're on the field, just stay focused on what you're trying to get accomplished. I think right now, because we have so much going on, and we really realize that we're fighting for hardness over our nation. I think that's important for the voters to realize this is not the time to sit out. We've been fighting hard to keep the values that we have in the Valley. We are drawn to the Valley, like I was, my family, because of it. We need to make sure that we're standing strong for it and knowing what those values are and that the other side is not at all in our camp in that regard.
Well, and I appreciate that you've kind of you've kept the focus and kept it on a couple of issues. Tell me what are kind of those main issues? You know, when I was campaigning for a state house seat, which is not anything like the level of what you're doing here, but when I campaigned, I always saw a couple of themes, kind of the same stuff that comes up over and over. Do you see some of those same topics that come up over and over?
I do, particularly now because of what we're going through this year. We're a state. There's over 277,000 businesses. Of that, 93% are small business owners. So what's important to us? We want to get back to work. That's the bottom line. We have dreams. We have visions. We have things we need to get back to. So being able to get our economy kicked back in place, get our jobs back, and the people go to work and get those things done with. The other thing, so other than economy, make sure that we have as business owners, a tax base that makes sense, that's fair, that we can keep our money, earn our money, pass it to our kids, rebuild our business. We want to do that. And the other thing is just, of course, the healthcare, the COVID. What I think we've seen is what it looks like to have an entrepreneur, the mindset of an entrepreneur, put together with government. You have Operation Warp Speed. Nothing like this has ever happened where within 9 months we have a vaccine, that we have a V-shaped economy coming back, and all with probably a disaster that we had again for a few months where people just didn't know what the next steps were going to be. So those are the things I will focus on: our economy, make sure that whenever this vaccine comes out, that we make sure that America can get back to work, get comfortable, and move forward.
That's great, and then hopefully you can take some of the lessons here in Utah back to DC. I mean, here, as you know, in the state, we have a balanced budget. Which
Isn't that an interesting idea?
It's not just interesting, it's like a foreign concept to so many people that when I would meet legislators from other state and they'd say, so what's your deficit? I'd say, we have a balanced budget. I'd say, wait, like, in other words, you can't spend more than you bring in taxes? I said, yeah, how
Derek,
wild is that?
If I can say this, Derek, and coming from out of state, now being a very proud Utahn, all 6 kids being here, 16 grandkids in District 4, by the way, we have something that's very unique called culture, and that is, one is just balancing the budget. How about how easy that is to kind of look at doing those kind of things, and focusing in on the education, which is around the country. We are known as a state that educates our kids well. We need to make sure we stay focused on that, and not let down in what's happened in the DC to come here, for sure.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate that as a candidate, you're now, people are getting to know you, and I wrote something the other day that went out to a lot of people that sort of, it talked about how we had this windstorm that came through a few weeks ago, and we saw a number of trees that kind of toppled, and thousands all over the state, and they toppled because they didn't have the strength and the depth of roots. And one of the things I think as human beings that gives us strength is the life experience that we've had, and the times when we've fallen down and picked ourselves back up. That's how we learn. And one of the reasons I sort of likened you as to one of those trees that stayed up, only because you've had those experiences where you've been knocked down, you got back up, knocked down, got back up, just like in a football game, but in the game of life. And I think that's what makes you has the strength of character and the strength as a candidate that we like to see. And ironically, your opponent's criticizing you for that very thing. And from my standpoint, that's a strength. That's a strength that you bring to the office, because being in Congress is not easy.
It is.
There's a lot of pressure.
One thing about our nation that's been consistent from the very beginning is our ability to freedom to dream. And when you dream, you take risk. And when you take risk, the key is, how do you deal with it when things do not go in the right way? Do you feel sorry for yourself, or get back up, man up, and begin anew? The most powerful 9 words that we can give each other as Americans, for those of us going through our obstacles, in which we all go through, is, if I can do it, you can do it. Those words of hope.
I love it.
And only by going through and taking risks can you actually do that. If you've never done that, you'll never fail. You can never say those words, because you never can empathize with anyone who's ever gone through it. So I lean very hard into risk, into failure. I think, and it's something I've said just recently, failure can be our very best friend as long as we don't quit once we've been formally introduced.
Absolutely.
So we have to remember.
Well,
that.
you gave, and for those who were watching, Burgess gave a fantastic speech. It was the night of the speech that it was the Republican National Convention. I don't remember which night it was, but one of the nights I remember watching, and it was a fantastic speech talking about getting knocked down. And you went from being an NFL champ, and then not shortly thereafter, you were a chimney sweep. And then you had this great statement that said, we need more chimney sweeps in Congress.
Can I just say this? I've had this experience, because when you're going through stuff like that, of course, you don't, it's not fun. You're waiting for the end. But years later, be able to stand in front of college kids, say, you're lucky because you played NFL. Say, yes, I was very fortunate to be an NFL player, but I'm standing before you right now as a former fraternity sweep. And if I can do it, you can do it. That's truly what we have to make sure that we embrace those times that things go wrong and share it with people, because people do need to have that hope. And that's what America does better than anybody else, any other country, is give each other hope.
Well, that gives you also a level of stability and grounding, because when you get to Congress, as you know, there's a lot of pressure, and there's a lot of pressure to vote a certain way, and it may not be in agreement with where your conscience is. And I think someone who has been through a tremendous amount of difficult life experiences has the grounding to look at someone and say, I don't agree with you, and we can still be friends, and I'm going to vote no, even though you'd like me to vote yes. And we don't always see that from members of Congress.
Well, and that's what this new class coming in, I can tell people across this country, we have a class of patriots. I think what you just described of career politicians. You're right. When you're a politician, you have a different way of thinking as you go there, not to serve the people, but to serve yourself. I want the District 4 to know that they are voting for a patriot. I'm there for one reason, to make sure we hold on to our culture, our country, and our kids can grow up in an environment where they have the same hopes and dreams and aspirations that we had growing up, which right now is really being stolen from them in so many different ways. So no, patriotism is a key factor to this process. What can we do for we the people, not for ourselves? And I'm excited about being in a district where I can bring that facet to.
And I appreciate that you're not willing. You're willing to sort of dig into the tough issues, because I think as a candidate, the road less traveled are those hard issues. It's probably easier to just talk about fluff, and you have a lot of candidates that talk about fluff or talk about their opponent's faults. And I think to be able to dig into those that's the road less traveled, and I appreciate that you're
and I can
doing
say
that.
this too, across this country, there's 23 candidates out there. Many of them, just like myself, never thought to be a politician. And I can promise you, this team is remarkable in terms of things we're going to be able to accomplish. There's tough topics, whether it be Social Security, health care, DACA, the things that right now have been out there for years because nobody wants to deal with it. We get people who care about we the people and do the right things for the right reasons. We can finally come to a point, even if we just don't agree totally, we can agree to disagree because we have the same end game, which is make sure our country is much better. I would suggest for those who really want to know how we can move forward, make sure we have the House, make sure we keep the Senate, and give our president 4 more years to keep these policies that's working in place. And we're going to have 4 years of renaissance where Americans start coming together again, because we're winning. And when we win, there's nothing like it more exciting than that process.
And that winning unifies
Absolutely.
people, unifies our country, and I think people see that. So let me finish up with what I think is maybe the toughest question of all here. When I remember running for office, one of the hardest questions was when someone said to me, why should I vote for you? But my answer had to be in 30 seconds. If I have 10 or 20 minutes, I could go on forever and ever. But in 30 seconds, if someone says Burgess Owens for Congress, is it easy?
Easy.
Let us hear it. Why is that?
This district has been 1 and 3, a must-have on both sides. Democrats must have it to keep their power and the chaos. We must have to keep our country and our culture. How cool is it that in the 250-year history of our country, that District 4 is truly the linchpin for our nation? As we go in our values that we fought so hard for and hold on here, we make sure we vote our values, our country goes in the way that we all want it to go in. Light, hope, faith, all those things that we adhere to here, our country can begin to feel again. So I'm excited about being part of that. I'm excited about the District 4, the values that the folks here have held on to. I don't think it's an accident that so much pressure has been put on us now to get this done with, because I know we're going to come through. And as Al Davis would say back in the old days, we're going to do this. Just win, baby.
I love it. I love it. Well, and I love that you're optimistic about it. I mean, so many campaigns we see out there, it's just gloom and doom and anger and venom. And I love that every time I see you, you're smiling, you're upbeat, and you seem to, like I said earlier, seem to be enjoying the process, which is great because Congress is also difficult, and I think you'd enjoy that as well as a member of Congress because there's a lot of pressure, but you can also, you've got to bring that optimism. We need more optimistic members of Congress.
We're going to get it done, Derek. I'm looking forward to it.
Love it. Well, thank you. Thanks for joining us. And for those of you who are watching, thank you for joining this episode of our Chairman's Chat. I'm Derek Brown, Chairman of the Utah Republican Party. We have been here today with Burgess Owens, candidate for the 4th Congressional District, and we appreciate all you're doing. Keep up the good work, and ballots arrive in about a week. So when they do, be sure to check the ballot for Burgess Owens, and also be sure to turn them in as soon as you get them because it's coming up quickly. So thank you.